I mean, nobody takes any pleasure or relish in this situation at the BBC, but in terms of your organisation, Defund the BBC, this is exactly what you stand for, isn't it? So this organisation is not fit for purpose. It's looking seriously to me as if this mother went to them in the middle of May and said, you've got a major star who has been giving my vulnerable teenage son thousands of pounds for sordid sex pictures, plus performing on the video and things like that. Really, you know, this is against the law, all of this. And only now do we hear activity on the part of the BBC, because, of course, it cropped up in The Sun on Friday. So all of a sudden, the BBC is all dynamic on this, but it does seem that for 7 weeks they sat on this and didn't do anything. We don't know that's the case, but if it is the case, a lot of people are going to be in a lot of trouble, aren't they?
Absolutely. Look, this is an organisation that has shown itself time and time again to be completely incapable of, policing itself and, looking into itself. It's major, what it majors in is whitewashing. And they are, paralysed by fear in these kind of situations where rather than doing anything and holding these big name talent, and if it's the name that, is doing the rounds, it's going to be... It's
huge, isn't it? It's just huge. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and it will be found out because they won't be on air. But the thing is, they need... How can they not... by this point, given scandal after scandal, have got themselves together on this basis? And this is why, people who are being forced to pay the licence fee just for watching any live broadcast TV are absolutely up in arms and saying, why should we be forced to pay for this? You have a top paid BBC talent, one of these big names who's potentially illegally soliciting sexual photos and images and video of somebody where it's not legal, in whichever means that is, but it's just not acceptable.
It certainly isn't. And Priti Patel has described the BBC's response to this mother's complaint as derisory, and a lot of people are saying, oh well, she's just sold her story to The Sun. You've got to make this very clear. She did not sell her story to The Sun. She went to The Sun in exasperation, she says, because the BBC just would not act on her complaint. So now Tim Davie, having spoken to the Culture Secretary, Lucy Fraser, is sort of saying, oh, this is a fast-developing story. We're moving at lightning pace to resolve it with efficiency and transparency. Well, what were you doing for the 7 weeks since the middle of May? When that mother first complained, what were you doing then? Why was it not a fast-moving story for you in those days? So I would say there are a lot of panicking people right now at the BBC, because it looks to me as if they've been and gone and done it again. Just like they did with Bashir, where they closed down the hatches, didn't tell us what was going on. We waited 25 years to find out the truth, because the state broadcaster made sure that licence fee payers didn't know what went on. Same deal for Savile. They tried to protect Savile. They tried to keep Newsnight's investigation into that guy off the air so they could put on a Christmas special, Shane Ritchie doing Jim Will Fix It. This is the way this organisation always behaves, and there's a suspicion it's done it again.
Absolutely. And you can see also the way that these other sort of supposed talent, have come out saying, oh, it's not me, the haters are going to... It's almost as if they think there's something funny about this situation. I don't know about you, if you're picking up in the tone of Gary Lineker's tweet there, it's not me, despite what the haters think. It just seems they're not really taking this seriously. And as you said, you've got a mother there who was absolutely in pieces, clearly, being made to wait for 7 weeks, and then got to the point where she's like, I'm not going to be fobbed off in this way. I mean, the story needs to get out there. And it is an outrage. This is an organisation that is forcibly funded by any British person that watches live broadcast TV. And poll after poll shows that 2/3 of the UK don't want to carry on paying the TV licence in that way. And yet we're still forced to do that if we watch any live broadcast TV. And then what we're seeing as a result, is this organisation that is able to just mark its own homework and whitewash any of these scandals because it's got this guaranteed income stream. And that's what we want to see come to an end. So they're held accountable by people who want to pay for them.
Also, Rebecca, I mean, you're talking about these other male stars of the BBC. I mean, as I said earlier to James Melville just now, I never thought I'd say this, but I actually do feel slightly sorry for Gary Lineker. I feel sorry for Jeremy Vine. I feel sorry for Nicky Campbell. I feel sorry for Ryland Clark. All the other major BBC male stars who've felt forced to have to deny that it's them. The BBC owes them an obligation of protection as well. What is it going to do about this situation? Because just sitting there saying, we're investigating this fast-moving, developing situation, that's no good. Frankly, I think, I'm sort of slightly reticent about this, but I do think the BBC have to name this guy for the sake of all the other people who work there and for the sake of transparency and honesty with us, the fee-paying public.
Absolutely, they have to name him. They have to name him, now, basically. I mean, it will come out because we'll see that he's not in place where he's normally in place. So it's going to become obvious. They're going to have to do something soon. But you're totally right. All other male presenters pretty much are under the spotlight as to who it is. And what a sort of smear to have against their name as well.
Shambles, yes.
It's absolutely awful. And for the BBC to be saying, we're working on this quickly, they've had 7 weeks where they could have looked into this. And if this has come about, as most people think, through sort of an OnlyFans type situation, and this is the fact that, the person had signed up saying they were 18 and they were actually 17, well, let's have an honest conversation about that, because the BBC's written articles about those things previously. A couple of years ago, they wrote an article about the scam of children setting up OnlyFans accounts. And if that's the situation, then the BBC should be first out of the, out there and putting its hands up and saying, look, we've got a major issue here. Let's do something about it.
Absolutely. And if, as I say, Rebecca, it does transpire that they tried to sit on it, I mean, I'm only speculating here, but the way I see this is Mother goes to the BBC, they try and sit on it, and Mother, in desperation and exasperation, goes to the Sun 7 weeks later. Suddenly, the BBC is all dynamic, can't move fast enough on this because it's hit the front pages. Before that, they were trying to batten down the hatches, weren't they?
Absolutely. And I think we can be forgiven for making that assumption because that is their modus operandi, isn't it? This is what they do. They sit on things, they hope it blows over, they try and whitewash things, they try and spin things. This is how the BBC operates, and it's deeply frustrating for people who are forced to pay for it. What they want to see from the BBC is complete transparency because, licence fee payers are, we're the ones who are putting in the money behind that. And that's really, we want to see answers and we want to see accountability. Yeah.
One last point before we go to break. The star in question, only recently at an awards ceremony a couple of weeks ago, was partying with BBC bosses there, enjoying himself. So there he is, what would that be, 5 weeks after this complaint was put in. As far as the bosses are concerned, he's a great guy to be seen next to an awards ceremony. I mean, again, this is them thinking, well, we've got this one swept under the carpet, but they didn't, did they?
Absolutely not. This is the thing. And it's this level of complacency which can only come from an arrogance, a supreme arrogance in an organisation that just feels all-powerful. And that's really where the BBC has to stop and look at itself. And the only way we can force the BBC to do that is to take away this guaranteed funding, this, draining the British licence fee payer for, this endless supply of cash that means they can carry on doing whatever they like without accountability. But they just need to wake up. And I think the only way that that's going to happen is if this government steps in and says, look, you can't keep counting on the licence fee in order to fund yourselves. You need to be accountable.
I mean, there's nothing funny about this situation because obviously our sympathy is with the alleged victim, I should say. But what was kind of amusing yesterday was the BBC, of course, trying to limit, to keep the damage down to as low a level as possible. So no, we haven't suspended any. We haven't suspended anyone. No. So everyone goes, well, why haven't you suspended him? They go, oh yeah. We are going to suspend him. They don't know what they're doing. They are like a fox caught in the headlights at night.